Hello and welcome to This Week in Metropolis. The transmission will begin shortly.
King P here.
And Steelio7, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. I've seen a few articles this week regarding a new wave of laptops coming out with dual screens, which to me, I mean, we've spoke about technology before on the show about how far it can go. But this just seems like a logical thing to do, and I'm surprised it hasn't been done before. I've said to you previously that when you if I could describe these, when you look at a laptop now, the bottom third of the laptop, there's so much wasted space because you've got a keypad and then space either side, left or right of it.
The keypad's as big as the screen itself, isn't it? Because the symmetry of folding it in half.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So on these new ones with the dual screen, it brings your actual keyboard down, so that is flush with the bottom of your laptop.
Yeah.
The actual keypad moves over to the right, or your touchpad, should I say, moves over to the right-hand side. And then the top half of what would usually be your keyboard is now a screen on these designs, and you can use it for multitasking, you can use it for gaming, you can use it so you've got to-do lists and things like that. So they just look incredible. The one I was looking at was Asus have revealed their first one. It's a new version of a ZenBook. Right. Which I've got a ZenBook, and I think it's an incredible piece of kit. But just looking at the details on it, it's got a 15-inch 4K touchscreen.
Wow.
And that they call it a ScreenPad Plus. And then a 14-inch so-called secondary screen. The trackpad's located on the right-hand side, as I'd already said, of the keyboard, but that also doubles up as a number pad. So that technically means there's a third screen.
There's a screen as well. Incredible.
Yeah. Obviously, I won't go into all the details of the actual spec of it, but I mean, it looks incredible. And I mean, I've recently been looking at new laptops because I've had mine a few years now, and it works perfectly fine. But you're always looking to see what's next, I guess. I don't tend to look at it as much as, say, I'd change a phone. But what are your thoughts, Matt, on these?
Well, I think, if you think laptops have looked exactly the same for the past, 20-odd years, haven't they? And there's not really, apart from the advancement of their thinner, like your ZenBook is tiny, isn't it, in terms of the thickness, and they've improved the screens and obviously the faster processors and stuff like that. But in terms of look of them, there's not really been much of a change, has there?
No.
It's sort of, you've got your standard laptop. It's the innovation in a way came with mobile phones and tablets and that sort of thing. So I think it's a welcome introduction. I think that my only concern is that it doesn't. I don't know if people don't like change. If you know what I mean. And I've seen the what you've described, and I think they look amazing. But I'd worry it becomes a bit of a gimmick. Hopefully the Acer and so on have enough of that, and they can justify the usage of that secondary screen and incorporate it into Windows in a way that it becomes essential. Do you know what I mean? Rather than I guess the example I could give on the most recent MacBooks, I don't know whether you saw, they had, I can't remember what they called it. It was a little bar that lit up. And you could sort of program it to view different things. I guess it's a completely different situation, but with that, it was a bit like a lot of tech. You're sort of solving a problem that didn't even exist.
Mm.
Whereas I think with these, when you set the thing for me to doing art and things like that, there's one of the demonstrations of it where you're looking at the picture on the big screen, but you're actually drawing on the smaller screen on top of
Okay.
the keyboard, and
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Being able to do those sort of things
Mm.
is fantastic. So I think it's all about application, really, how they use it.
Yeah. I guess from a personal at home using your own computer to your own needs and requirements for gaming and for things like this, um, will it benefit us that much? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, perhaps, for something like this, we would be able to pull up articles and read them at the same time rather than
yeah,
having a split screen, in that respect, and it's there. I guess from a work perspective, it's quite handy because a lot of businesses now, I mean, some companies they require, say, two monitors to be
yeah,
able to pick up extended information, spreadsheets, etc. So I guess from that perspective, if you're just working off of a laptop, that from a business perspective, that can be quite handy. I
yeah.
don't know what these are going to retail at. I know Intel have revealed their one as well. They all look, but from a start, it seems like a few of the big brands are going down that road of
It's clearly
designing
a
these,
thing.
and
Yeah,
yeah, and whether it's a phase, like you say, it may be that it doesn't become a necessity, and they go back to an alternative. But I certainly think making the most of the space that's on a laptop, whether it be putting an additional screen or what, is pretty good. But also the fact that that middle section, so the top half of where your keyboard and that is, that actually folds as well.
right.
So on these ones that I've seen, it actually folds, so you
It
could
lifts
technically
up.
your screen could
Yeah,
lift up, yeah, and then you've got the two visually straight in front of you if you
yeah.
wanted, and it all blends with a slight kind of bezel in between where the bend is, but
The
it does
thing I
look
would
really
say,
smart.
so sorry, the thing I would say now is it almost, if you think with mobile phones, when you
Mm,
had your normal mobile phone, and then you started to get the what you would deem as a smartphone. Really, the first sort of type of smartphone was a BlackBerry,
mm,
and you had a BlackBerry which did all your email and internet and that sort of stuff, but still had a keyboard, had the
yeah,
full QWERTY
yeah,
keyboard.
yeah.
Um, People looked at that as a real bonus for quite a period of time.
Mm,
But then when an iPhone came out, well, you don't need a keyboard, you got a screen.
yeah.
And I think I can see that's possibly where this might go. You're sort of shoving the screen down a little bit, sorry, the keyboard down
Yeah.
to put another screen in, and then it's probably going to reach that tipping point, and they think, well, why we got a keyboard? Because I mean, from what you described, the number pad on this particular thing is pretty much a screen anyway. So
Yeah.
why don't you then have the keyboard as a screen?
Yeah.
And then it's complete, which is a couple of weeks ago, Lenovo released details that I think is very much sort of a prototype. I think it's 2020 or something. They're going to bring it out. But they didn't call it a laptop. They called it a foldable PC. So it was a sort of a iPad Pro size sort of device, but it literally folded in half. The
Mm,
screen folded in half, um, and then you would type on the one half of the screen as a keyboard, and then the other half would be um, whatever software you was using, and that was a full Windows device. It wasn't
wow.
using any mobile software,
Mm,
and the way they justified it was there are certain places you wouldn't want to take a laptop. So I don't know if you was going out for a meeting, going out for coffee,
mm-hmm.
meeting someone,
Meeting a client, yeah.
you wouldn't want a laptop necessarily under your arm,
Mm,
because it's quite intrusive. Um, but this thing folds into a sort of a notepad almost size, so you
wow.
could easily have it in your hand and then tap on it if you wanted it as a like a tablet, or pop it open, bang, I've got a laptop as well. So it's
Crazy.
insane. And the way they I don't know if you remember it. I think it's called is it the Galaxy Fold, the Samsung
The new one.
that's out.
Yeah.
Which another example is folded screens. The early versions, those that they sent out, the screen was cracking,
Yeah.
and because there's too much pressure on it. With this thing, the screen never folds completely. It's sort of, if you imagine it, sort of the way your finger and your thumb meet together, your forefinger and your thumb meet together, and there's a hole at the back. It sort of
Yeah.
bends,
Yeah.
but it
Almost like a
doesn't fold.
binder.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
like that, like a binder. But small enough that you don't notice it as being a problem. So yeah, it's crazy. Loads of innovation, I think, coming in that area,
Well,
isn't it?
I like the idea that you said. I mean, that when you said about the keyboard potentially becoming a touchscreen, I mean, then you're essentially it's a tablet form of
Yeah,
laptop. It's a weird sort of, when you think of tablets now, you can do all of the stuff pretty much that you would do on a computer,
yeah,
barring, certain software or whatever.
yeah.
But that's
I,
all touchscreen.
I think what was holding a lot of these things back, to a certain extent, and I remember some of the early Windows tablets that came out, was that Windows was really rubbish on touchscreen and things like that, wasn't it? Um, you'd have an operating system that was really designed for a keyboard and mouse,
Mm,
stuck onto something that was um, made for using your fingers or whatever
yeah.
on the touch screen, and
Mm,
they didn't quite join up. Whereas now, I think Windows 10. I'm a huge fan of Windows 10. I think it's a fantastic operating system. Um, with the tiles and the way that it works, it's very interchangeable with
mm,
different devices now, which is awesome.
mm. One thing I haven't actually used, and I don't know if you have, is the actual touch screens. I mean, mine's not a touch screen, so it's just a standard laptop, really. Um, but I
No,
don't know. Have you had any experience of using any of them?
no, I haven't.
Mm.
It's a while ago. God, probably going back 5 or 6 years ago. Some of the manufacturers, I'm sure it's HP that did one, um, started selling them as like an all-in-one PC thing. So you got the touchscreen and then the PC was sort of mounted in it, a bit like
Mm.
they do iMacs. It
Yeah.
was that sort of thing. Um, and they always quite intrigued me. But I think the problem with those, which probably doesn't exist anymore, was the screen was quite unresponsive. I
Mm.
think there's two different types of touch screens. So I can't remember which one's which, but compared to using a mobile or something, it was just worlds apart, and that sort of put me off. But I think, yeah, why wouldn't
Mm.
you want to do it as such? At home, I have got what is it now? It's a HP. It's a little notebook thing. The ones where a keyboard clips onto it.
Yes.
So
So they're
it's like
detachable. Yeah,
yeah,
detachable.
it's
Yeah.
a tablet, but you pop the keyboard on it, and then it's a little notebook PC as well.
Mm.
Got one of those that works fine. Again, that's with Windows 10, but it still feels like well, you're sort of caught between. Oh, I'm using the keyboard. Oh, I can touch the screen as well, but
Mm.
I don't know. Yeah, you're in between two worlds, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's not native to the device.
My final question for you on this is, with the enhanced technology on laptops now, do you feel that, or do you think that desktop PCs will eventually run their course, or do you think because it just seems they're so convenient now, laptops, and the tech that
Yeah,
they have in them now compared to, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago,
yeah,
is so much more advanced. I mean, like you said, I can't get over how good mine is when it's as thin as it is.
yeah,
It's lightweight. It's very much along the same lines of a MacBook, but not made by Apple.
yeah.
And I can't fault it. But do you think that, you know, PCs, you've got to have them set up in a room. They're
Yeah.
not as, like you say, they're not as mobile like a
No.
laptop. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think personally, I built my own PCs for years and I absolutely love my PC, but I think it always the side of the community, I guess, for want of a better word, that keeps PCs going and PCs alive is the almost hobbyists that want the most powerful computer and so on with it, and is to a certain degree led by the sort of gaming industry and so on. What I think more than anything in the future that will multiple things. I think internet is getting faster and faster, particularly with 5G and things like that coming out, which will gradually lead to the transition to cloud-based services more and more and more. And if you think, you can use on a basic level, Google and their sort of docs and all of those things, you don't need to own Microsoft Office or anything like that. And like Amazon Prime Video and Netflix and that, why do you need to own physical media? It's all there on a server somewhere that you can access. We're only a few steps away, really, from if you think Office 365 and a lot of Windows services are moving over to that sort of system. Why do you need a big, powerful computer when you've got incredibly fast internet that can access the server and provide you with whatever software you want? So, that sort of thing will, I don't think completely kill it, because there's always going to be people like me that want to build some fancy computer. But for generally most people, if they can pick up a cheaper, lighter, smaller device that will connect wirelessly to the internet very quickly, provide them with everything they want, why wouldn't you? It's brilliant. And that's now coming to sort of game services and things like that. So, the next generation of consoles is going to move towards streaming the games rather than owning them. And so on. All these big companies can have incredibly fast servers that will pipe the games straight to you. So why do you need a big fancy computer? But I think the other thing that's potentially will and we're probably a little bit far off, but is getting sort of more and more advanced day by day is voice services. I don't know if you've seen the film Her.
Yeah, I've seen that. Good film.
Where he's falls in love with his sort of AI assistant as such, and everything's done by voice. Talking to the computer and it types for you and everything like that. The way things like Alexa and that are advancing. Why would you need to have a physical, open up a laptop and sit in front of it and do it, when you could be sitting there watching telly and you can say, Alexa, send this email to James, blah, 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 talk it out, sent. You don't even need to touch a device.
Yeah.
I think, in the future that will make a big impact.
Yeah, definitely.
But then it raises the question, I guess, of what do you do when you haven't got internet? Internet would have to be to the point where it is pretty foolproof, which certainly in the UK where we are, it's not the case. It varies so much from town to town and so on. Access to that can be quite limiting, can't it?
You'd think that would have. I mean, I'm sure it has advanced from where we are, like you say, with 5G on the horizon and things like that.
Yeah.
But just from having internet in your home, I remember in my house when I first moved here, there was difficulty in getting certain speeds and things like that. I was on the bare minimum, I think, which was a real pain for gaming and streaming online and things like that. But obviously broadband has taken that, and then you've got unlimited broadband, and then it goes on and on.
Fibre and so on. Yeah, exactly. It's a huge difference. But I think that last question brings quite nicely to I mentioned Amazon and Alexa, and they're spending a huge amount of money and piling a huge amount of research into their artificial intelligence and voice services and things like that. And there's an article, Bloomberg, I believe it was, had leaked information to saying that Amazon is working on a device that can read human emotion. So it will be, or what sort that it will be, some sort of wearable. So whether it be I don't know, a bracelet or a watch or something to that effect. But it will have microphones on it and will be paired with a smartphone app. Is what sort. And yeah, it will listen to you and based on your speech and the tone of your voice and so on, and your vocal patterns. It's the patent that was filed, it says in 2017. It will be able to sense things such as joy, anger, sorrow, sadness, fear, disgust, boredom, stress, and other emotional states. So yeah, it's absolutely insane, isn't it?
What I'm more intrigued is what the benefits of that will be, because is Alexa going to ask you whether it wants to play you some sad music, or to order you something from Amazon to make you feel better?
Well, see, I'm glad you said that. That's exactly what I thought. Is it going to be as cynical as, oh, you're sounding sad today. Why don't you order this comedy DVD from Amazon? It's. But apparently, the entertaining part on the patent that was filed. I don't know if you've seen sort of patent applications. They often have sort of a picture or a diagram describing how a product or whatever is made. And in the filing, it shows basically a sniffling woman telling Alexa she's hungry, and which enables the digital assistant to realise that she has a cold and asks the woman whether she would like a recipe for chicken soup.
Wow.
Was the example that they gave, which I find is absolutely nuts, isn't it?
What another funny thing that I'm just thinking, like, if I'm angry or upset, sometimes I just need a little bit of me time. I need a bit of time to myself to have think things over in my head. I don't need a piece of equipment and AI to be asking me if I want chicken soup or to try and make me feel better, because at that time, it's just amazing to think.
A cold beer or a pack of cigarettes or
Exactly.
something like that.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just a strange thing to it worries me a little bit, to be honest, like with where AI is heading at times, because I think these home assistants and things like that are pretty cool. I've only really played about with Alexa. That sounds weird. But
verbally.
Verbally, yeah. But we was at a house party, and we was, all of us were kind of asking for different songs to be played and requesting and it was pretty good.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
However, there was something on there where you can tell Alexa to change her language to dog or cat, I think.
Really?
And then to make it go back to talking English, it was a right pain.
Did you have to tell it in dog to go back to English?
It was very difficult. However, the concept of it is clever, but I just think with all these leaks and things like that going down at the moment, if all you've got personal information on there, or if something knows how you're feeling, if I'm angry and I'm not the sort of person who goes around hurting people, maybe that's a plus side. It might report to the police that someone's borderline gonna do something wrong. Do you know what I mean?
That's true, isn't it?
I don't know. It's just very strange, and I'm interested to know what the bit of kit is that you've got to wear, because when you first started telling me they're designing a bit of equipment, I was expecting it to be some sort of big head,
a helmet,
a helmet or something with some big antennae off of it. Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, though. It is probably a tiny, tiny thing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the articles I read, they compared it to those things you used to get out of a Christmas cracker or stuff, like a mood ring, or one of those
Remember them?
fish. Do you
Yeah,
remember the
yeah,
fish that, if it curls up, you're in love or whatever?
yeah.
It's absolutely insane. I've got a Google thing and it remains turned off for the majority of the time. So I'm sort of these devices do send me into sort of paranoid mode in the fact
Mm,
that they do listen. And there was a thing not long ago where it was revealed that Amazon, because and you experience with a sort of Alexa, they understand to a point, but they're still learning. This is it's not a living, breathing thing, but the nature of artificial intelligence is it takes in what the information is given and it learns what that information is in the context, and certain things it doesn't understand. So they have teams of humans listening to, if there's a command, say for example, you ask it to do something several times and it repeatedly doesn't understand. You talking is then referred to a team of humans that listen to what you're saying,
right.
and then can then sort of address that within Alexa in
Yeah,
terms of educating it.
yeah.
So even though the argument to a certain extent is, oh, it's just a computer program listening to you, there are times when humans are actually listening. And if you
Mm,
think, it's on all the time,
yeah,
you're sharing a huge amount of your life with who, you don't
yeah,
necessarily know who. If you're walking around with something on your wrist all the time or something like that, he's always listening to you.
yeah.
And I know maybe the old argument is, well, I've got nothing to hide or whatever, but it's
It,
in a time where these some of the things that WikiLeaks and that has unearthed, and like the NSA tracking people and things like that, it's quite a dangerous thing to have.
yeah. Have it, the with them, and I'm guessing it's the same with mobile devices as well. Is
Yeah,
it the same where you have to say Alexa or OK Google
yeah, I
before
think
it
so.
before it starts listening?
Well, in theory, it's always listening because it has to always listen to know when you say Alexa.
Mm, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You see what I mean?
And are they becoming, so your one, for example, does it become smarter with through what you're saying to it all the time, or does it just understand you more, if that makes sense?
No, well, a combination of two. It will learn your voice,
Mm,
but also sort of the beast that is Alexa or whatever is constantly learning in terms of what you're asking. So I'm
yeah.
guessing, and this is purely me guessing, if you use in terms of, I don't know, Alexa play the 1975, or Alexa, I want to listen to 1975,
All
asking
the
in two
time.
different
All the
ways
time.
all the time, please never turn 1975 off.
Mm,
Because you're asking it in two different ways. There are lots of different ways that someone would phrase that. So it has to understand, if you say plain 1975 or I want to hear, it has to know that those two things should lead to the end result, basically.
mm, mm.
So I'm guessing it's that sort of thing.
Very interesting.
But
But
yeah.
it does worry me with
Mm.
how far it's come along.
Yeah, and how quickly. I think
Mm,
it's constantly evolving, because that's anyone who's seen the old Terminator films with Skynet and whatever, and the whole thing, they take over as such. A certain element of that is true, that artificial intelligence is designed to teach itself. And
mm,
almost, and I guess Age of Ultron as well is a good example, isn't it? That it gets out of control, and it does, because you without Elon Musk is someone who's very vocal about sort of safeguarding these things, because if you let a machine teach itself to become a better version of itself, and you're removing the human side from that, where will it stop?
mm,
There'll be a point where it gets better than you,
mm.
and and then what do you do? apart from run.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Then we're all began to our nearest bookshop to find that How to Survive an Apocalypse.
That's it.
That is
An
heading
Alexa
our way.
apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, they'll need to grow arms, legs, and all that. But I mean, if you've seen the film Humans, the TV show
TV
Humans,
series,
that was AI, but in futuristic housemaids, robots, and all that kind of do that.
Funny you should say that. Apparently, Amazon, just to finish off this, Amazon has also apparently been working on the domestic robot codenamed Vesta, which is Vesta apparently is after Roman goddess of home and family, and they think it could be a robot, like a mobile Alexa thing for the home. So there you go. They're already thinking of that. Where Alexa will walk into your room and ask you what you want. It's crazy.
I mean, if it looks like the lead character off of Humans, what was her name? Was it?
She was quite attractive.
She was a lovely looking woman.
So you can use my Prime to get her next day if it happens. I'll get you a Vesta.
Gemma Chan.
There you go.
Who I believe was actually with you'll never guess who she was. I think just in a relationship with. I don't know whether they still are. Jack Whitehall.
Really?
Yeah, wouldn't have put them two together, but fair play to him.
A robot and a comedian. Yeah,
he's punching.
There you go.
Yeah.
So a lighter, not really a lighter, I guess. It still portrays Amazon as the Big Brother sort of thing. There's been lots of things in the press over the past few years of how but not particularly nice places Amazon warehouses are to work and so on. The demands of the deliveries and getting the items and putting them in. And I do believe Amazon is actually spending a lot of money investing in robots to do the jobs of fulfilling orders. But one of the things that's I don't know whether they announced it, but they're doing a pilot program in 5 of their warehouses across the UK and in the US as well, where to basically it's a combination of trying to make their work fun, the people who work in the warehouses work fun, but also enabling them to track their work as well. Is they are introducing a system of retro style gaming, which basically, let's say your job is to, which probably silly thing to say, probably everyone's job in a warehouse for Amazon is to do this, is to scan a thing, put it in a box, scan a thing, put it in a box, let's say.
Yeah.
What that does is it links to a game which apparently these in the workstation, the games have names such as Mission Racer, Pix in Space, Dragon Duel, and Castle Crafter. So you get these retrographic games that track the person's work. But let's say that the more you're scanning or the quicker you're doing it, your little car drives around the track. And if you're also just I guess they're trying to make it fun, but I guess this puts pressure on even more. It shows you're competing against. If me and you were working in a warehouse and we're both playing Dragon Duel and I'm scanning things and you're scanning things quicker and your dragon's bigger or whatever, this game works. There's a league table as well, which shows that you're better at Dragon Duel than I am because you're scanning more stuff. And if you win, you get things called swag bucks, which it just sounds like I'm making this up, but this is a real thing, which you can redeem for Amazon branded apparel and gear. If you're working in an Amazon warehouse, probably head to toe Amazon, do you think that an incentive?
You're the coolest guy there,
James. I know you're wearing a full Amazon uniform, but you could have this Amazon hoodie if you work really, really hard. So when you're out of work, you can dress Amazon branded as well.
We've also got these Amazon sweatbands that you could wear as well for so
on
much
the head
swag.
and the wrist. Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, they could have made the perks a bit better at the end of it. I mean, I'm all for playing a game as an incentive. I guess that's quite good, but if the end prize is to get Amazon branded clothes,
Yeah, that's it.
a
What would you want?
uniform essentially.
Yeah, more
Which,
uniform
yeah, yeah.
is what you'll win.
I'm not. Yeah, God. Well, I hope they don't do it in my work, but
No, that's it'd be terrible.
yeah. But I mean, I actually know someone who used to work for Amazon down in London, and I mean, it was very grueling. He wasn't in the warehouse. I think he was more project manager sort of side of the business, but
Yeah.
but it's long old days, and I guess to have any form of incentive to keep your employees on the ball, I guess, is
Yeah.
is a benefit. And if they're trialing it, I guess they'll see what the results are, and then that could be rolled out. But I've go on.
No, I was going to say, I think the danger with this is, and you know, again, I've not experienced what an Amazon warehouse it's like, but you know, from what I understand, it's quite a high pressure environment as it is. And if you're, there's only so, I know it's you know, the phrase in marketing, I think, is putting lipstick on a pig. There's only so much lipstick you can put on, you know, the fact that you're working in a warehouse and having to, I think they have these sort of hand things that beep until you get to the next item and scan it, and then it stops beeping. And then it, you know, when you're then walking to the next thing, it beeps and beeps and beeps and beeps quicker. Yeah, you know, like the beep test you used to do, running from one point to another. It's a bit like that. So if you're working in that sort of environment, are you really going to be excited about
Another element, yeah.
Well, another, and that's what it is. Regardless what it is, it's another thing to think about, isn't it?
Because what it also does is then you've got the pressure from your employer already without this, but then to have a game with a league table, so then you're then pitting your own employees against each other to, although albeit for a laugh. You're then looking for the ones the stronger ones who are good at their job to battle against the weaker ones, I guess. And if you're not that motivated, is that going to motivate you? I don't know.
No. Sorry, Bob, we're going to have to let you go. We've seen you only scored 200 points in Dragon Duel this week.
Yeah.
Man, insane.
Crazy. That is crazy. Okay, well, I think that wraps up this week. A lot of tech news this week, but good. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media that we're on, which is Instagram and on Twitter. Don't forget to follow the show on all the podcast platforms that we're on as well, which include Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, amongst some others. Other than that, thanks for listening, and hope to speak to you all again soon.
And goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Transmission over.